Good morning. I'm Reverend Bill Lyon, your minister here at Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. And I'm grateful today that we can gather this morning as a community, a place where both our shadows and our light are welcome. Co-leading the service with me today is Barb Rohrer, our worship associate. She is here to welcome you next.
Thank you, Bill. As he said, I'm Barbara Rohrer. I go by both names, if you're wondering. And I'm a longtime member of this church. Bill said, will be your worship associate this morning. I want to welcome all of you who are here. It's so good to see all of you coming out on this cold morning. And I want to welcome those on Zoom who are watching us now or sometime in the future. And if you are joining us via Zoom, please sign our online guest book. The link to that you will find in the chat. If you're here for the first time, I extend a particularly warm welcome to you. We're so happy to have you here. And if you haven't signed our guest book, which is just outside the sanctuary to the right, please do so. And then Susan Conley. Susan, please stand up so everyone can see you. Thank you. Susan Conley is our official greeter this morning. If you haven't met her when you came in, please introduce yourself after the service. And if you have any questions or if you want to tour the building, she would be happy to give that to you. As always, I have to remember this myself, when we come together to worship, we need to turn off our cell phones. So please do that now if you haven't already done so. And then, Bill, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah?
we have a lot going on.
Oh my gosh, do we have a lot going on. Have you seen the back of this order of service?
It's pretty full.
Mark can barely get everything on there.
I know. So tell me that. Now we have an open house. Tell me about that.
Well, first off, we have a bazaar happening.
Excuse me.
It's not bizarre like B-I-Z-A. Well, it might be. But there's a lot of great things out there.
Yes.
And if you haven't had a chance to do some shopping, it's a great chance to do so.
And also, if you're like me, when you get out of church, if you have some family and friends that aren't doing anything this afternoon, please tell them to stop by. As Bill said, we have wonderful, wonderful things there. Plus, we're also supporting not only our church, but 10,000 villages. So just keep that in mind. And then I said open house, but those were the wrong words. So thank you for clarifying bizarre.
But there is actually a holiday open house at my home with Barb's place, and all are welcome, including kiddos. We've got childcare available. It's a good chance to get to know one another in a less formal way from 3 to 6. There are some cards out there on the table if you need directions, or I think they're in the order of service too.
I need to clarify something. When he said at his and Barb's house, he's not talking about me. Bill and I do not live together.
Different Barbs.
Just want to clarify that. So tell me about next weekend. What's going on?
Oh boy, next weekend is big too. We have our regional consultants from the Unitarian Universalist Association here to help facilitate some conversations about the new ministry that we have here. And they're going to be helping us share our story and the story that's yet to come, a visioning process. So it's going to be a great thing. If you have not RSVP'd, the place to do so is in the back of your order service. We would love to have you there for Friday evening's supper. Good news, you don't have to cook.
Yes. There's a pasta bar, and I love the fact that I don't have to bring a dish. So keep that in mind. We are going to get an announcement from Susan Conley, but there's one other thing I forgot.
What'd you forget?
We have some people, unfortunately, our dear friends, who can't be here. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, there are a lot of folks who are members of the church, friends of our church, who it's a little more difficult to get to church sometimes. And we want to remember them at this time of year. So the caring committee has set up near the kitchen, on that little bar there, a place to write your name on these cards we want to send to them. So please take the time to do that after the service.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then, do you want to introduce Susan?
I want to introduce Susan Conley, the president of our Board of Trustees. Susan, you've got a special announcement for us.
Yeah.
You will like this announcement. Good morning, friends. I'm grateful to share some truly good news for our congregation, news that arrived right around Thanksgiving, and many of us have been waiting on with hope, uncertainty, and more than a little patience. Over the last 2 weeks, we have received money from 2 government grants that were at one time considered very much in doubt to be paid. With the government cuts and freezes in spending, we simply did not know if these funds would come through, but they did. The first grant was our Ohio FEMA 2023 Nonprofit Security Grant. And as many of you know, the way that we do this is that we have to finish the work and pay for it before we can get reimbursement. The first reimbursement we got was for the cameras in the camera system, and that was $23,000, which was a great relief. But then we got that in April. And then we had to spend about $120,000 more for the new doors and locks, and that drew down our reserves. We just received reimbursement for that now, and we can replenish those reserves. The second grant was our employee retention credit, which we applied for long ago, and we'd almost stopped expecting it. This was money that the government promised us if we kept staff employed during COVID. And part of these funds now have also been paid. We're expecting a few more of those, but we had just about written those off. Together, this means that we can fully restore both our long-term and short-term reserves, and it means we won't have to call a special meeting in January of the congregation to request permission to borrow from our endowment. This is a significant relief and a real blessing. I want to offer heartfelt thanks to the people who made this possible. There were a lot of people who made this possible, especially Rebecca Pace, our former treasurer, who helped shepherd both of these complicated grant processes with persistence and care. To Martha, our office administrator, who tracked every document and every dollar with her usual quiet brilliance. My predecessor, Jamie Castle, who steered our congregation through a year of ministerial transition and financial security. To the finance team, who have guided us faithfully through 6 months of uncertainty and hard decisions. And to all of you, the congregation, who found creative ways to sustain our shared ministry even as we tightened our belt and hoped for the best. This is a moment of gratitude, relief, and steady confidence. While it doesn't mean that we suddenly have extra funds to spend freely, it does mean we're once again on solid and sustainable ground. Thank you for your faith, your flexibility, and your commitment to our vision. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You would need a microphone. You have something you want to say besides me? This is Bob Lamb, who's head of our security team here.
There is one person she left out among people who made this all happen. And the chief person who made this happen was Susan Conley.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is, there were a lot of hallelujahs flying. You know, for a UU church to have as many hallelujahs as I saw in the email threads, it was something to behold. Barbara, could you call us to worship, please?
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Susan. Our call to worship today is a short poem by one of my favorites, Wendell Berry. To go into the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without light and find that dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. Come, let us worship together.
Sonny is going to help us light our chalice. As we light this chalice this morning, may this small flame remind us that both shadow and light shape our lives, and that in community we can hold them together with passion and compassion. Nicely done. First time. So now let us rise and body your spirit as we offer gratitude through song. Our opening hymn, Dark of Winter, was written by a former music and choir director here at Heritage, Shelley H. Jackson Denham. Please remain standing for our covenant.
Please join me in our covenant. We affirm that love is the spirit of this church, and quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Good morning. I am Lacey Lee Adams. No question mark needed. If you happen to be reading the order of service. I am the director of Lifespan Faith Development here, and this is our time for all ages. So I would like to invite our young people to come forward, please. Okay. All right. Let's sit here. We're not pigeons on the wire, though. Okay, so let's be friendly with each other. Thank you. Good job. Okay. Or we are pigeons on the wire. That's okay. All right. To the adults, you might notice again, you see my back. That's okay. Everyone needs to be able to see me and my basket of tiny feelings. Do you have a basket of tiny feelings? There you go. You do indeed have a basket of tiny feelings. It's your body, in your head, and in your heart. Okay, so let's start here. This is the holiday season, right? Why do we call this the holiday season? William? There we go. There are a ton of holidays this time of year. It starts with Thanksgiving, works through the new year. There's Christmas and Hanukkah. Let me see. There will be Kwanzaa, Yule. There are just a lot of holidays in this season. Yes, Sonny? Christmas is included, indeed. Okay, so, and your birthday. All right. Happy future birthday. So, what feelings do we often think about? What feelings do we think happen during this time of year? Remy? Joy and happiness. Oh my God, let me see. Can I find happiness here? Is happiness in here? Is there happiness? Oh, look, happy. Well, joy is a feeling. Joy is like excessive happiness. Joy is like deep happiness that you can share, right? So, well, you know, because there's only 8 or 9 of these. So they're kind of groups of feelings. They get us towards the beginning of a feeling, right? Yes, Sonny. Right. Okay. So it brings people together. There's a feeling for that in here. Where are you? Where is that little feeling of belonging, right? Holidays help bring us together. See, belonging is happy, kind of with a grin. It's curious, connected to others. All right. Are there other feelings we feel this time of year, William? Stress. Oh, yes. Yes, friend. Stress. Ooh. This could also be construed as worry. Yep, okay. Juliet? Hungover. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. All right. Sometimes we have feelings of we've done too much. And that can be associated with feelings. Yes, okay. That's true. All of that is true. Yes. Okay. All right. Sadness. Oh, let's go back to sadness is also a kind of worrying, right? We sometimes don't talk about these kinds of feelings, the ones that are hard. During the holidays, we want to be all rainbows and unicorns and glitter and happiness, right? And everyone tells us that this is how we're supposed to feel at this time of year. But it's true. There are other feelings. Like sometimes we're sad. Lots of things at the holidays can make us sad, right? Maybe we're missing people. Sometimes we're sad that we're not in school because we can't see our friends. Or sometimes people who are really important to us, we don't get to see them for a lot of reasons. So we feel sad during the holidays. And that is as true and right a feeling during the holidays as are these. Okay? Other feelings that you have. Mari, do you have a feeling? No. Okay. Sunny? Like you're on vacation. Yes, yes, yes. That's a good one. Sometimes vacations and being away are opportunities for new experiences. Oh, we're learning things, right? All right. Now, I want to just say 2 things here. 2 feelings that you might have and that are important also to the season. What is this feeling? Angry. Yes. Do you ever get angry during the holidays? Like maybe you're shopping somewhere and there are so many people and the line is really long and you just want to fume. Yes? No. Well, if you... Yeah, because... Good job. Never shop during the holidays. This is, I think, a fine idea. Yes. So it is okay to feel that as well. Now, the one last thing I want to talk to you about, and this is a feeling that I think it's worth celebrating during the holidays. Do y'all know what this one is? Empathy. Yes. Yes. Okay. Sometimes the best gift we can give to someone during the holidays is a bit of our empathy so that we can feel what other people feel. And the joy of empathy, or the magic of empathy, is when we feel other people's hard feelings, their sadness, their worry, their boredom, it helps lighten their load. And when we feel the good feelings, when we feel the joy and the excitement, the curiosity of this time, it expands their feelings of those things, but it also helps us feel them as well. So when we feel along with other people during this season, it helps us connect in a deep way with other people. And that is the real gift that we can give during this season. Yes? Okay, so your tiny basket of feelings, all of the feelings in here are perfectly good and great to have and worth being celebrated. So don't be afraid of any of the hard feelings, and certainly don't be afraid of feeling all the good feelings, even if they're like smushed right next to each other. That's the nature of feelings, right? Smushed in our baskets, in our body, yes? All right, now, I want you to listen very closely. William is going to lead, okay? When we leave the sanctuary, we have to go through the Great Hall and into the youth room. But there are lots of things in the Great Hall which we should not touch at all. So like single file line, hands next to your body until we get into the youth room. Yes? All right. Recessional, here we come.
Now, as the choir gathers, let us take a breath to quiet our hearts and make room for this musical blessing. It's a chance to shift the energy from the energy that was just here with us to something different.
Thank you, that was lovely. We now turn to our Candles of Community, where we honor the joys and sorrows that have shaped our lives, holding one another in compassion and light. Before we invite those of you here to come forward and share a joy or sorrow, we will be lighting 2 candles. Reverend Bill will be lighting 2 candles as requested ahead of time. The first candle is for Hope and Jonathan Adala. They share the joy that their newborn son, Reese, was finally able to come home from Children's Hospital. Yes. And then a few months ago, Janice Alvardo told us about her friend Anna, who needed a kidney. Janice shares the good news that a living donor has been found and that Anna will receive her new kidney on Wednesday. Anna has had, it is good news, it is good news. She's had kidney disease all her life and has been living with 1 kidney for years. Right now she's in dialysis 70 hours a week, and so that will all end. So that is wonderful news for Anna. Now, for anyone present today who has a joy or sorrow, please come forward as we traditionally do. Line up on either side of the sanctuary, and when it is your turn, take the mic, tell us your name, and briefly tell us what's in your heart. And Reverend Bill will light a candle for you. You may also request, this is important, that a candle be lit in silence. I know there are things in our hearts sometimes that are too tender to speak. Are there any candles here today that you wish to share?
While we wait for just a moment for that to happen, I invite you to just admire the candles at this table. They are evidence that this community cares. This community feels all the feelings. Okay, seeing none, I will light one last candle here for the joys and sorrows that I know many of us hold in our hearts, and for the many who do not have the voice to share a candle. And I'll invite you to join me in a time of reverence. Spirit of love, of life, of compassion and community, known by so many names, and for some of us, God. We're humbled to be here in the presence of one another and of the divine as we understand it. It would be easy to want to gather only for the joys of this season, but it's acknowledging all of our feelings and being able to bring them all, our whole authentic selves here, that we are able to learn true community. Bless those who are grieving. Loss is so hard. Those who are struggling, may we be there for one another as we help accompany folks through those times. And may we be okay, feeling all the feelings. I invite us into a time of silence to pray in our own way. Comfort me, comfort me, Comfort me, O my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, O my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, O my soul.
Sharing our abundance. We are blessed. And now is the time to share those blessings. For those of you who don't know, when we take up a collection every week, we do not keep the money for our own operating budget. We who are members and friends of the church support outside of that collection. The collection we donate each week to an organization who shares our values. This week, the offering is going to La Soup. This is a nonprofit in Cincinnati that works to bridge the gap between food waste and hunger. Each week, La Soup rescues as much as 30,000 pounds. Can you imagine that? A perfectly good surplus food from grocers, farms, distributors, food that otherwise may have been discarded. Then their team of professional chefs and volunteers transfers those rescue ingredients into nutritious, ready-to-eat meals, which are then distributed to over 160 community partners serving people facing food insecurity. Last year alone, La Soup turned more than 1 million pounds of surplus into over 1 million meals. And over time, they diverted millions of pounds from landfills while feeding thousands of neighbors. By supporting La Soup, we're not just giving food. We are honoring dignity, creativity, and community. We're saying food waste is not inevitable and hunger is not acceptable. We're supporting a vision where no good food goes to waste and no neighbor goes hungry. As the plates are passed, please consider sharing from your own abundance, and perhaps also sharing a moment of silent intention for all who hunger, those who rescue food, and those who work to transform that scarcity into nourishment. Our offering music is food, glorious food. We offer this in a light, playful spirit, reminding us both that abundance many enjoy and of the very real hunger La Soup strives to alleviate. We will now take the morning collection. Oh, certainly.
Can't hear you.
You can't speak from there.
I'll speak loud.
No. People on Zoom.
Okay, every Thursday at IPM, somebody from Last Mile stops by and drops off at least 60 quart containers of soup from La Soup. And oftentimes they had other stuff like meals for a family of 4, and we immediately then hand them out to our neighbors that come through there. So they do a lot of good stuff.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you to all of you for your generosity. May no one go hungry anymore.
Moss Hart was a playwright who lived from 1904 to 1961. Along with his writing partner, George Kaufman, they dominated the Broadway theater in the 30s with such plays as You Can't Take It With You and The Man Who Came to Dinner. In 1956, Moss Hart directed My Fair Lady. This reading is a memory of his Christmas in 1914. Obviously, Christmas was out of the question. We were barely staying alive. On Christmas Eve, my father was very silent during the evening meal. Then he surprised and startled me by suggesting, "Let's take a walk." He had never suggested such a thing before, and moreover, it was a very cold winter's night. I was even more surprised when he said as we left the house, "Let's go down to 149th Street and Westchester Avenue." My heart leapt within me. This was the section where all the big stores were, where at Christmas time, open push carts full of toys stood packed end to end for blocks at a stretch. I joyously concluded that this walk could only mean one thing. He was going to buy me a present. On the walk down, I was beside myself with a delight and an inner relief. It had been a bad year for me, and I wanted a Christmas present terribly. Not a present merely, but a symbol, a token of some sort. I needed some sign from my father or my mother that they knew what I was going through. I'm sure that they were trying to give me some mute signs they could, but I did not see them. The idea that my father had managed a Christmas present for me in spite of everything filled me with a sudden peace and lightness of heart I had not known in months. We hurried down, our heads bent against the wind, to the cluster of the brightest lights I had ever seen. Tugging at my father's coat, I started down the line of push carts. There were all kinds of things I wanted, but since nothing had been said by my father about buying a present, I would merely pause at the push cart and say, with as much control as I could muster, "Look at that chemistry set," or "There's a stamp album," or "Look at the printing press." Each time my father would pause and ask the push cart man the price. Then, without a word, he would move on to the next push cart. Once or twice, he would pick up a toy of some kind and look at it, and then at me, as if to suggest this might be something I like. But I was 10 years old, and a good deal beyond just a toy. My heart was set on a chemistry set or a printing press. There they were on every push cart we stopped at, but the price was always the same, and soon I looked up and saw we were ending the end of the line. Only 2 or 3 more push carts remained. My father looked up too, and I heard him jingle some coins in his pocket. In a flash, I knew all. He had gotten together about 75 cents to buy me a Christmas present, and he hadn't dared say so in case there was nothing to be had for so small a sum. As I looked up at him, I saw a look of despair and disappointment in his eyes that brought me closer to him than I had ever been in my life. And I wanted to throw my arms around him and say, "It doesn't matter. I understand. This is better than a chemistry set or a printing press. I love you." But instead, we stood shivering beside each other for a moment, then turned away from the last two push carts and silently started home. I don't know why the words remained choked up within me. I didn't even take his hand on the way home, nor did he take mine. We were not on that basis. Nor did I ever tell him how close I felt to him that night. That for a little while, the concrete wall between father and son had crumbled away, and I knew that we were two lonely people struggling to reach each other.
That was lovely. You know, it's only the 7th of December. You know that? Yet how many times have you heard or seen Merry Christmas already? You'll see it plenty more. Now, I'm not anti-Merry Christmas. Far from it. It's just that the season we're in, well, it's a lot more complicated than a single emotion, especially merriness. Right? I mean, we don't wish one another a merry birthday, a merry anniversary, a merry Hanukkah, or merry Easter. Although I actually once had an aunt named Mary Easter, and a friend in college named Mary Moody. Who does that to their kids? You can't make this stuff up. But for most of us, this season, it brings a range of emotions, some joyous and some less so. Much like throughout the year, only magnified, right? Shadows and light, both and they coexist, are intertwined, like our joys and sorrows, intertwined. The Wendell Berry poem we shared in our call to worship reminds us of this. To go into the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight and find that the dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. Thank you for that, Barbara. In a world that likes to force everything into a dichotomy, you know, this or that, us versus them, Berry reminds us that shadows and light are not opposites. They're companions. They travel together. They shape one another. And while we may enjoy holiday cheer this season, I hope you do, it's only part of the human's experience, and a limited one at that. The story that Bruce shared, that true story, and thanks again, Bruce, you really told it beautifully, and that's why I need these. I suspect that each of us experienced that story a bit uniquely, and even in the story, many of us felt a swirl of different emotions, didn't we? Sadness and grief, anxiousness, shame, disappointment, and quiet gratitude, love that transcends words. How could those heartwarming feelings have emerged without the sadder ones? How could we have enjoyed the light without also experiencing the shadows? As a youth, 10 years old, who desperately wants a meaningful token, a symbol that he is mature enough for something more than a child's toy, and a father with earnest intentions, but not many financial resources. He wants to bestow a gift. And then there's reality. A reality that for many during the Depression and before and even today is all too real. Shadows amid the consumer version of the holiday season. And from that shadow, a boy and we as listeners experience the light. One small gesture illuminates a dark time. We come to realize that the true gift was never meant to be the toy or even the chemistry set. It was the accompaniment, the human connection that even without words expressed love and understanding between father and son. Sometimes the light that saves us doesn't come in grand, dramatic ways. It comes in ordinary kindness. Presence, not presence, was the true gift. The light transcending the shadow. As Bruce shared that story of father and son, I couldn't help recalling one of my most memorable Christmases. I too was around 10 years old. Though my father had grown up during the Depression when most folks struggled financially, my middle class 1960s and 70s experience was different. There were gifts under our tree and a bounty of food at our table. Yet my father never forgot his modest growing up years. And he sought out ways to share of our abundance with folks less fortunate, especially at this time of year. So at age 10, I was deemed old enough to accompany him on his Christmas Eve afternoon sleigh ride, we called it. I rode shotgun in the Pontiac sedan. After loading it with boxes of food and gently used toys that my mother had helped assemble. Somehow he had a knack for learning of several families in the county who were struggling and not particularly tapped into the traditional human services of the time. Sometimes illegally occupying abandoned and unsafe structures. One particular structure was a former one-room schoolhouse way out in the country. It was standing, but only barely still standing. No electricity, no heat, other than a fire right there in the middle of the one-room schoolhouse. And one mattress, one twin mattress, shared by 5 people. On cue, I set down the box of food, a small blanket, and a used toy. And I looked up into the eyes of those 3 kids, not much younger than I was. I looked at the tears in their mother's eyes. And I looked at their father as he spoke to my father. Sir, would it be all right if we open the milk? The kids haven't eaten in a couple of days. Of course, food insecurity is not just a story of the past. It's a shadow that remains very much with us today. And I never could have understood that. Surrounded by the twinkling lights of commercial Christmas. It was only in the shadows of that one-room schoolhouse. We were the bringers of gifts that day. But the gift I remember more than any of my 62 Christmases was that gift that taught me compassion. Like that moment in the Moss Hart story. Even the smallest gesture, a meal, time together, and human connection is the most meaningful where shadows and light intersect. How appropriate that our outreach offering to La Soup helps us help others alleviate food insecurity. Same thing, when I tear up, it's hard to read even 16-point font. So the rest of the story is that when Susie DeYoung, respected chef and daughter and granddaughter of renowned chefs, read the story of students at Lower Price Hill School going hungry over the weekends, she loaded up her car with food from a restaurant and delivered it to that school that day. And that led her to learn more about the paradox of food waste and food insecurity, twin shadows that haunt this great nation, this land of milk and honey. Yet it is from those shadows and that enlightened vision that La Soup emerged. And even many of us, and even though, so you heard earlier that we're gonna have an opportunity to gather and share food and companionship. We do so mindful of those who have less and committed to the work of compassion. And then, as we started a service, how about the joy, exuberance, and profound relief that many of us felt when Susan shared the news about the grants? They finally come through. After the board, staff, and many lay leaders have been living beneath that shadow of not knowing whether it's going to come through. It offered time for self-reflection, fiscal restraint, and creative problem solving as we navigated that time. Shadows and light intertwined. And isn't it in more challenging times that we and our communities are strengthened? Doesn't growth often occur after these darker times? Not the merriest of the seasons, but the darker times? Like some of you, I think of my mother this time of year. We lost her 4 years ago, a few days before Christmas. So many of us think of loved ones who are no longer with us, especially this season. Shadow times that are not merry, but they're meaningful. Nostalgia, where happy memories and sadness are woven together, where we come face to face with our true humanity. Like Lacey and the kids, feeling all the feelings. That's the human journey. Sometimes we're joyous and happy, sometimes sad and melancholy, often stressed and overwhelmed, often. And seldom do our lives resemble the Hallmark greeting card or the commercial from your favorite beverage company or online retailer. Thank goodness. So if you find yourself feeling something other than merry this season, there's nothing wrong with you. And this community is here for you through it all. We see it each week in the Candles of Community. We experience it when we watch our kids who are so beautifully display emotions that we adults are conditioned to keep bottled up. They're the smart ones, by the way. And if you're paying attention, there are lots of opportunities to gather, places where you can bring that authentic self of yours. Because community doesn't erase shadows. It accompanies people through them. As much as we may want to bring joy to the world and to experience it ourselves, perhaps the most honest thing we can do is to meet the world as it is. We sometimes need to go into the dark to know the light. Here we acknowledge and honor both the shadow and the glimmer that's beyond it. We don't force the light. We lean toward it. So may the light you lean toward be enough for this day, enough for this week, and enough for this season. Amen. And I think think we get to hear from our amazing choir. Awesome. Thank you for that. Let's make our way toward the out part of the circle as we can. Take your time, not a rush, as we prepare for our final blessing and benediction. And it looks like the kids are going to join us too. Awesome. Join the circle, kids. May the shadows guide your rest. May the light find you gently, and may love travel with you from this place today and always. And can I ask Bob Booth to honor us by extinguishing our chalice, please? And Barbara, will you share our closing benediction?